What's up, everybody? I'm Hope.
And I'm Kadero.
And welcome to H&K Chronicles.
A podcast by your favorite couple, Every Day with H&K.
We hope you're inspired by our love and our laughter.
And whatever conversations come from this.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy. What's up, everybody? It's Hope and Kadero here. And we just want to welcome you to H&K Chronicles. You never disappoint, my darling.
Never, man.
You never disappoint.
Never.
It's a podcast by your favorite couple, Every Day with H&K here.
Hey.
And I'm excited about this one because I feel like we've kind of been going through these steps, right?
Yeah.
So it was when we met, homecoming.
Yeah.
We talked about dating, the friendship foundation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so would you be so inclined, my darling, to let the people know what we're talking about today?
We're going to talk about questions to ask before you pop the question. So the question before you pop the question.
Or before you answer the question.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. That is true. The question before the question.
The questions before the question.
Yeah.
So you feel, okay, let's just let's lay this out. So these are the questions that we're asking the person that we're dating.
We've now been intentionally dating.
We've been intentionally dating them.
Uh-huh.
And now the engagement hasn't happened?
No, it hasn't happened yet.
So we're not even in the engagement
We're not in the
stage.
engagement yet. Because
I'm guessing that's going to be another podcast.
That may be another podcast.
Okay.
We talk about the engagement because there's things I think that should happen. And that will happen even in our engagement. Like,
this is true. Okay, so these are the questions to ask. So,
like when we're now serious about our relationship, when me and you got serious, some of these questions we knew and we may have asked, some of these we didn't, and we'll talk about that. But like when you're dating somebody and now like you kind of see that, okay, maybe we've been together 6 months, a year and a half, like.
And now you're talking about
we've had the
engagement.
Conversation of, okay, do you want to get married?
Yeah, not officially popping the question, but y'all have had that conversation of possibly getting married.
And so now we're like, it's for a man, I think, definitely like, all right, let me start asking some of these questions before I pop that question, these meaningful questions.
That's great. But before we get into that, I got to give a special shout out right now to our homies that are watching. Because if you're watching this podcast, like I said before, that means you rocking with us. You a homie. You are with us on Patreon and you're seeing the visual behind this podcast.
Absolutely.
So you're seeing our darling little faces. This one right here.
That one right there. Also a shout out to everybody that's listening, that follows us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Man, y'all are H&K Nation. So shout out to you guys, man.
Right.
We appreciate the love. We do appreciate the support, man. So keep rocking with us and make sure you share. Tell the folks about us, man.
Share.
Tell everybody now. Make sure you download this podcast, subscribe to it, rate us, review us, let us know how we doing.
We're only accepting 5s.
We're only accepting 5s. That's right. And I must say, for those who are watching, man, you may see the switch up right now. Wifey got the curly in today.
Well, let me just dig on that for a minute.
Y'all may have seen the straight, but tonight she ran.
You know why?
In this piece, she got the curly in.
You know why?
I'm a curly man now. I like the curl. I like the curls.
I likes the curls.
I likes the curls.
But I heard I picked up what you put down the other day because a couple of days ago, Carol said, you always get something new and you don't know how to let it go and go back to the other things that you had.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard him and I said,
she
okay, well, let me switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
So we got the curls popping today.
Got the curls popping.
But straight will come back eventually too.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that. Yeah. But it's nice to see Natalia, as that's called. Natalia. Did we ever name the straight one?
No, we did not.
So,
Education Nation, if y'all are listening, submit your wig names for the straight piece that I own. That would be great.
That would be great.
All right, you ready to get into it?
Let's get into it. So, kind of going back to us, man, because we always come through our own experience.
That's right. Absolutely right.
Did we ever really we knew we wanted to get married. And for us, it was so unique because we were so young.
Babes.
We were babies. But we knew we wanted to get married.
We did. I think it was...
have these conversations? Did we talk about this stuff?
These questions that we have here?
Questions that we felt like when we look back now, we're like, yo, these are the good questions to ask. Did we have these conversations?
These, I think, are the questions that we wish we would have asked. If I'm being honest. I mean, for the most part, I think because we were together for so long and we had that friendship, like we kind of knew how each other moved, and we kind of knew like
we was in each other's
space. Yeah, and we knew kind of that it felt right. Like we were on one accord. On one accord for a lot of things. So but it's like the older we got, it's like maybe we should have talked about that.
We should have talked about that.
We definitely should have talked about it. But okay, so say for like example number 1, like the first question that we have on here.
So we get right into it, and just we have we did a little bit of this on a YouTube.
We did.
So make sure you check that one out if you haven't. We dug a little into it a little bit, but we dig a little deeper. We talking about it a little more on this podcast. So maybe
more in depth.
Yeah, more in depth on it. But I can't.
Okay. So what I was going to say is like the first question, I felt like for us, it was something we already knew.
We knew, yeah.
So it wasn't like we necessarily had to ask this question because we saw it in each other's lives. So you may be thinking, well, what's the question, Hope? Just get to it, you know? So I think we think it is very important that you ask your partner or your the person you're dating intentionally, what are their beliefs? Out the gate, straight out the gate.
And when you say beliefs, what you talking at?
Who do you serve? God?
Who do you serve?
I mean,
come on, somebody.
How's your relationship with Christ? And this is just for us, right? So the thing is, like, whatever you're believing, you know, you have to have that conversation with who you're dating as well. Just make sure that you guys are on the same page. But for us, it was like, we grew up in the church and we grew up
in the same church.
Same church. So we had that foundation of the same beliefs, which I'm grateful for.
Absolutely.
That we had that.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't like we necessarily need to ask because we were all learning the exact same thing. Like we knew.
Yeah. But I think that is interesting though, like for people, like it is probably important to know that. And like we said, we are very inclusive. So whatever floats your boat, whoever you serve, I think the two of you have to decide. Right. And then from there, deciding now, can I be with someone that maybe serve differently, or worship or have a relationship with God that's different than the way I do, because you know, I know the Bible talks about being equally yoked, but it's interesting if somebody is. The Bible also talks about if you are married, someone is and someone isn't, you don't divorce them for that. You may be that person to help them. So that also, I think when you think about it, that also kind of means like if y'all can figure that out, if we're both doing our part to be serving God, then we can figure life out. Now I think, but you got to be, because the yoke piece, and when you think about what the yoke is, it's really that it's that contraption that puts like two like mules together to get two mules working in the same direction. So if that means for me is equally yoked, if we are both yoked into this thing, no matter if who you believe, who I believe, and we can go in the same direction, then we're good. However, in those cases when you're not, or if there's a difference, if I'm Christian and you were like Buddhist, and you got all these different things you believe, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, I don't believe, though, how are we gonna go in the same direction?
And I think that's so key, because it's like that sets the foundation for so many decisions that you make in your life, so if it's like and I don't know other religions outside of my Christianity, like as far as practices and all of that stuff, but like, what if you had a religion that takes you away from, you know, what we're doing here? like time away? Or, you know, what if we want children and now how are they going to be raised?
Ooh,
like, is that a decision where they're going to your church or your temple, or are they going with me? Or does that now cause division? You know what I'm saying? So it's like that kind of sets the foundation of where we're going, how we're getting there, and making sure that, like, you know, like you said, if they can work it out and they're two different, you know, backgrounds, great. However, I think it's just important to know from the beginning what you're getting into, you know, what that person believes, what their practices are. And that way, you know what you're kind of signing up for.
Right. That's funny that you mentioned kids, because I think that's another question that needs to be had. Like, do you want kids? Do you see kids in your future? Like, if I want a big family or like 2-3 kids, and you're like, well, I don't want no kids.
And I think
that one's a tough question.
That is a very tough question, right? Because and the hard thing is too, people's minds change. So it's like, I could say that I want kids before marriage, and then say there's some type of, God forbid, complications, and like time is getting away from me and I'm getting older and I'm not feeling like having kids or something like that. And now it's like we're married and I said I wanted kids, but now it's like, I don't know if I honestly feel like having them, right? Like, if, and this isn't me, but I'm saying, like, you know, there's some people that the older they get, they're like, you know, I've gone this long without them. I'm kind of used to the way I'm living. I'm kind of used to this situation I have set up. So it's like people's minds can change, and it's interesting. But
I think you should ask that in the do you think your mind can change? Because I see that as also the opposite. Like, I don't want any kids, but then down the line, and y'all both agree, I'm not. We don't want kids, and that's how. And then all of a sudden, 5 years into marriage, I would love to have kids. Like,
right?
Can't you see little? And I'm like, no, I thought we agreed. We're not having kids,
right?
Like that could. So it's like almost even asking even, do you want kids? And if you don't, could you ever see yourself wanting that inkling? Because at least if you both have that inkling, then okay.
Or would you be okay if my mind changed?
Right. Yes.
Like, would you still be okay with me if I decided my mind wanted to change? So I think that's important to ask. But I also think, as far as we're talking about kids, because I'm going back to us and how we were. And I think that it's also important to ask, when would you like kids? Because if I'm honest, putting myself out there. Putting myself out there.
We should have had about 10 kids right now, the way Hope is working. Telling you that right now. We should have had about 10 kids. 10 little Kaderos and Hopes running around.
Little H and K's.
Little H and K's. It'd have been about a tribe of us.
Yeah, but because, I mean, we honestly, I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, we had that conversation. We went for a walk. This was our first year of marriage. We were in Oklahoma. And I told Kadero, we're having kids. Like, I'm ready within the next year or two. I want kids, right? And this was when I was ignorant. I didn't realize that.
She says I was ignorant.
I didn't realize that, you know, one, I wasn't ready back then, and I thought that I was. Two, it's not about what I want. It's about God's will at the end of the day in my life personally. So I was oblivious to a lot. I was ignorant to a lot. Looking back, I know we definitely did not need to have kids that first, second year.
Oh, absolutely not.
Even maybe the third or fourth. I mean, just the way that our life has, like, taken us different places. And I honestly couldn't imagine, like, traveling and moving as much as we did with children. Like, God knows how much we can handle and how much we can bear. And it's like, I didn't know what our life was going to look like. So looking back now, I kind of digress, but looking back now, it's like, okay, I was tripping. Like, to ask you for a child the first, second year, like, we hadn't even enjoyed each other.
Now, man.
So it was just one of those things. I think that it's important to ask, like, okay, what time frame are you looking at? And that's not to say that it's set in stone. That's not to say that it has to happen, but at least just having that idea of being on the same page of, let's be married, you know, for a few years and then try or something like that.
And I think that is so wise, because there are people that They get married, next thing you know, they are pregnant within a year.
And sometimes and that's what I'm saying. If that's their plan and that works for them, more power to you.
Right.
I think for us, it was discovering who is Hope and Kadero as a couple.
Yeah. Like especially being that we were so young. It's different when you're in your 30s and you get married.
Right.
Compared to being 22 and 23. Being married.
I mean, I didn't know who we were as a couple. Yeah. I just was finding out who I was as an individual. So it's like, anyways. Okay, moving on.
Uh-huh.
Another question we think is important that, do you want to just go in order or do you want to pick
No, we can
ones?
pick and choose because I think there's some orders that sometimes gotta come before.
Okay. So go for it.
What is your financial situation?
Listen. Now we can ask this question.
Yes. If you
remember, right? Yeah. If you remember, some of us was asking this in the friendship levels, like on first dates and all that stuff. It wasn't the time.
Wasn't the time of the place.
Now is the time.
Now it's time.
When we're thinking about making this thing kind of official. Now I need to know financial plans.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that look? Stability. Okay. What does that look like? Like, what are those questions that we need to ask?
I wish I had one of those little scrolls. Like, So, man, what is your credit score?
Listen, it is important for everybody to be on the same page and know what each other's credit score is.
Yes.
I mean, because
am I working with a man that had that 750? Come on, somebody.
That's decent.
Or if I'm working with a man who got that 250. She always say 250. 250. Do people have 250?
I don't know.
Is that a possible score?
I don't know, to be honest.
I'm saying 525, and I think that is low.
And the thing is, we are not here to say if your mate does have a credit score of 250 or 550 or whatever, that you should leave him. No. That's not what we're saying. Not at all. But I think it's important to know what that score is. So now y'all can start setting goals. Yeah. Now y'all can start saying, okay, how are we going to repair this? Especially when you start thinking future with this person. Like, okay, are we going into a house after marriage? Because you got to have a certain credit score to get a house. You have to have cret to get a house. I mean, unless you're just going straight cash. You know what I'm saying?
Straight cash, homie.
Straight cash. So it's like you kind of have to know those things and know like what type of financial situation you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
And I think also like observing, and this may not be a question, but like now starting to put on your observers and
your observers. Okay.
And and kind of observe their financial behavior too.
Ooh, that's good.
Like, are you the type to be quick,
spend that money?
Yeah. Like knowing they ain't got it, but I'm gonna get these shoes that just came out, or I'm gonna get this handbag that just came out. And
Why did you have to go to that voice though? Why did the woman who was getting that? Was it
for me? It was fitting for me. Yeah, so I don't know. So like knowing, kind of like starting to observe. Okay, they spend a lot, or they're kind of irresponsible when it comes to the financial.
Or do they save?
Are they
a saver? Do they like to pay themselves first and put something in the bank?
Do they pay on time?
Do they pay their bills on time? Things like that.
It's not necessarily the questions, but just start observing.
You can ask it too if you want.
You can ask it.
What is your behavior? Do you like to spend money or do you like to save money?
Yeah, I think that's important to ask. And I think also I want to slip this in there because it kind of goes up under the financial umbrella.
The financial umbrella. We sound like a bank.
Let me ask you, well, not you personally, but as we're dating, do you have debt?
Oh yeah,
that goes.
You don't have to slip that in. That is a question that needs to be known.
It needs to be known
immediately.
Because I need to know what I'm walking into. I need to know: are you $120,000 in student loan debt?
And it could be understandable. Maybe you went to get your master's, got your doctorate or something.
Absolutely,
you do it.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I need to know
what's the plan to get out. And I need to know how far are we in? Because at this point, once we marry, it's our debt now. My belief.
Yeah, that's what I say. Now the belief.
Our belief.
That's interesting because, like you said, our belief is that my debt, which, to be transparent, like when we got married, I was, I think, like 20,000 in debt from college, my undergrad. So like it became our debt now, and we had to have a plan of how we were going to attack that. Right. Once I was done with school. So now some people, it's different. They may say
they'll handle it.
But if not, then it's like, all right, if it's both of us, let me know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that the debt situation is important. We just, at the end of the day, we just want everybody to know. We just want everybody to know what they're walking into.
Yeah.
We don't need to be caught off guard. We don't need to now be married and now $600 is coming out every month because there were student loans that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
So we just need to know.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
Next one.
Was there any type of order? I'm flowing with you today.
You flowing with me?
Yeah, I'm flowing with you today.
This is the next one I need to know. Medical history. Personal and family. Yo, that's huge, though. And I think that's one for us personally that we were like, we never really talked about.
Right.
In the old days, you always want to make sure you get that blood test. Now, that's probably one of the engagement, get the blood test, right?
Right.
But like, we kind of knew our personal stuff, but we never really dug into our family history.
Yeah.
And like, for my family, like, looking back, and we, like, it was years now, we started thinking about, I'm like calling my mom and dad, like, hey, who had what? But like, I have a very significant history of cancer in my family.
That stopped.
And so it was like, you said that stopped.
It stopped.
Come on, in the name of Jesus.
Saying. That stopped.
Stops here, I tell you. Breaking that curse.
Before you.
Yes, before me. Yes,
that's
true.
Right.
Amen. Before me.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like, it's good to know, even when you go to the doctor and they start asking those questions, I think it's always like, yo, who had what?
Right.
But then those genetics that you don't know about, that you may have to then think about for like the kids' sake.
Right.
Like when we're having kids, and if there is any underlying or genetic stuff or hereditary stuff that could get passed down. Right. That's huge.
That's very huge to talk about, because I do remember that I think we're going, we always revert back to ourselves. I think it was like an eye doctor appointment or something, and they ask you those random questions about high blood pressure in your family or, things like that. And we were like, what? Your family? What? My family? It was just one of those things. It was like,
we realized our family got some things
going on. So that's why we are now changing the pace.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Getting things together. But so it's kind of just one of those things of you need to know each other's medical history. Or at least maybe not in depth, but in depth. But like kind of have those conversations. Like start thinking about those conversations and stuff like that.
And one thing I also think about that we failed to talk about too, and just want to hit on is the mental health. I think that is huge, especially in the Black community. Yeah. The mental health. Yeah. And is there any mental health? Is there a history of depression? Right. Or any type of mental health conditions that you've seen or know about? Because that's huge, because one, we don't like to talk about it, and we don't like to go seek help. So it's like, that can be something that's passed down, or just you just never know. Another thing when you're talking about observing, putting your observers on, observe somebody, like when you're observing them in their seasons, is there times that they get like mentally depressed shut down or things happen like that? So I think that's another thing to talk about, like, is there any type of like mental mental history that has affected a person, you personally or your family? That's good. Yeah. Because you just don't want to be caught off guard. You don't. And that's what I think the premise of this whole thing is to kind of know, and we know that things are going to come up as you guys, get engaged or as marriage happens, like things change. But to kind of have an idea of what you're signing up for, I think is definitely important. Another question. This isn't the first. Before you want to take a little break before we do that though? Yeah, let's come back for part two. Not part two. We'll be right back. We're back.
Hey. All right. So, before the break, we were talking about just, those questions to ask. And you were just kind of coming off of asking about the mental health piece and kind of the family background with mental health. And so I was thinking these next couple of questions, we can kind of just group those together, ladies and gentlemen, because they're kind of similar yet different, but they kind of all go a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first question I would say would be easy enough. You want to, maybe not even a question, but observe once again, these observers. How does your partner at the moment handle stress?
Ooh.
And I think we've talked about this.
And that goes good with that mental piece too, because that can be trigger.
That can definitely be a trigger. Yeah. And we've talked about this before, but knowing your partner in all seasons, right? Mm-hmm. And those seasons we talk about are during the happy times, during the sad times, during their angry times, you name it, we need to know how they respond in those moments.
Right.
So just kind of observing how they handle stress. Is there a question?
Hold on. Oh. Did you observe me during those times? Were you how did you know me in all seasons?
I think I did know you in all seasons. Yeah. I knew you in all seasons. But the funny thing is, when you're stressed, it's for all the right reasons. I'll go deeper.
Yeah, go ahead. So, explain what you're saying.
So, say, for example, our wedding night, right?
Oh.
I mean, the night before our wedding, at the rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kadero got angry. I mean, normally they say it's a bridezilla situation. I was cool, calm, and collective. Now, this one turned into a groomzilla.
I wouldn't say I was a groomzilla.
Just for this moment. Just for this moment. He was good until there was a moment where women that were there were...
And let me say, for our wedding, we talked about how it was such a blessing.
Absolutely.
We only paid $2,500.
Absolutely.
But the caveat of that was there was some setup
there was
stuff.
There was a lot of legwork
that we did it ourselves. We took care of our own wedding, and so there was some legwork, tables and chairs that we had to set it up ourselves.
Yes.
And we had people there to help.
Yes. So we had people there to help. Kadero started noticing that a lot of women were carrying tables, a lot of women were carrying chairs, a lot of women were doing the brunt of the work.
And there were men. In the building.
Standing there. And Kadero got so mad.
The way I was raised.
The way he was raised.
The way I was raised.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying.
A woman should not be rolling no tables. These are the big 8-foot tables now.
This is what I'm saying.
And we got men just standing around watching.
Getting angry again, guys. Getting angry again. But this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Your anger or your stress moment comes from a good place.
Gotcha.
And that's normally your motive. The reasons you get stressed or angry, it's not because you want to do something bad or
I was never a punch a hole in the wall type when I was
you were not. So you controlled your anger, but it always came from a good place. So that's what.
And then I cried.
You cried the night of the wedding?
I think I cried that day because I was just so frustrated with that.
Oh, boo!
You ain't got to console me. It's over, man. Come on, man.
This is a 11-year-old console that's new. I didn't know.
I think I cried. I was so frustrated.
But that's what I'm saying. Your stress comes from... Yes.
And I was tired.
Yeah. You good? You got it all out?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're saying a lot right now. You got it all out? You good?
I'm good.
Okay. So your stress comes from a good place. But when you are stressed, I noticed, you will either hold it in and not say anything and just kind of... say it later, or that was the only time I feel like I've seen you not lash out, but get really vocal about how you were feeling. But I think that it was something that needed to be said because you said, we were raised, if you see a woman carrying a table or a chair and you're more than able to help, what are you doing just standing around?
Chivalry.
So it was I saw your stress, but I was that's a good man.
I can't.
You know what I'm saying? So I think I did know you in all of your seasons, though. Like, I knew,
Thanks. Okay.
Did you feel like you knew me in all my seasons?
I think I did. I think the stress, I think I knew from the jump, you still are to this day, such a processor. You stress out and you just you take your time and you process it. That's also probably one of the hardest things to wrap my finger around about you. 11 years in and 20 years of knowing you, like, I'd be like, all right, what's up? And you're still trying to process it and won't say a word. Won't even give me like an update. Sometimes I just need the update. Like, what is the update of your process of thinking, right? Like, just like the, I just need to know more.
And I think too, that just comes from like, I don't want to blurt something out and say something that can really cause harm. Like, I need to really think about what I'm about to say.
I hear you.
Because the last thing I want is just to say something prematurely or out the gate and it just hurt feelings and it's just a disaster. But I'll try to get a little quicker. I'll try. Okay, so we talked about stress, kind of observing that.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads in the stress, and a lot of times we get stressed due to conflict. So I think how do you handle the conflict itself?
Yep.
And I guess conflict with one another. Like, am I the type that, I'm lashing out, pointing fingers in your face, like stuff like that. Like, you probably have disagreements while you're dating, like, especially when you're seriously dating. So, like, I think it's good to observe that, how a person handles conflict or just conflict in general with another person or what's going on. Maybe they got something at work. How are they handling that?
Yeah.
Do they resort to the anger or are they able to brush it off, think rationally, critically think about something and kind of make a decision and find solutions from there?
That's good. I like that.
And so from that, I think we learn that. I think that a lot of times it's learned, like how do we handle conflict?
Yeah.
So I think that's another great question to ask. Well, how did your parents deal with conflict? How did they have fights? Were they yellers? Were they
slam doors?
Did they talk like civilized human beings and work it out? Because I think a lot of times we learn what we see and we mock that and imitate that. And like to this day, I think with us, there are times where I resort back to what I've seen, and it could be something like just mumbling, like I didn't say, huh. What's that face? What's that look?
I just identified with what you were saying.
Oh.
It just hit.
I
mean, yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Where you'll mumble and I'm like, ooh.
What you say?
I'm thinking to myself sometimes, ooh, he don't sound like Kendrick.
Put his name out there on these streets?
Kendrick Pops. Everybody knows who he is. He was on live with us. But it's like one of those learned, I don't know, is that learned? Like, is that something you just picked up?
You imitate. Like, it's just because if you got used to it, seeing it, you kind of just mock that. It's like birds of a feather flock together. And so like you imitate and you learn those traits from people. So, and sometimes it was like, that's what I did, and not be able to talk it out or, instead of just holding it like you to process, and I'm talking to myself about it.
I'm like, huh? What you saying?
And I'm maybe talking too loud. That's the problem. I'm talking too loud.
You don't know how to whisper.
I don't know how to whisper to myself. Huh? You just gotta learn how to whisper sweet nothings
to yourself.
Myself.
That's right. So I want to kind of switch gears just a little bit.
Okay.
Because, we've talked about the stress, we've talked about the parents, we've talked about medical, all of that stuff. But there's some other things that I just need to know sometimes before getting married.
Uh-huh.
And I think one thing is, and this should probably be asked sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But
so this should have been high on our list right now.
Probably. But we just flowing today. Y'all flowing with us. Everybody flowing together. Okay. So I think a big question is, what are your expectations of me?
Ooh.
Because what are your expectations? I need to know, what kind of wife are you looking for?
What kind of husband are you looking for?
What kind of husband? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And
taking care of you.
This is what I'm saying.
From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same.
This is what I'm saying. There's so many questions in expectations.
That's true.
How do you expect me? Like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody to cook your meals? Are you looking for somebody to clean up after you? Are you looking for somebody to wash your clothes? Are you looking for somebody,
that sounds like somebody's mama.
That's what it does sound like, but there are some people out here that feel as though their wife may replace their mother or their husband may replace their daddy. And I need to know straight from the horse's mouth. What are you expecting from me?
Right.
What are you expecting? And this even comes with sexually.
Oh.
I'm going there. Oh. I went there.
How many
times a week are you looking to get it? And this could definitely, that question can come a little later, in this process. But I think that it's important to know, like, kind of, because sex is important.
It's key.
It is.
Especially for a man.
It is.
That is key.
It is very important. And I just think that...
Come on, somebody.
You reminiscing?
It's
my own podcast. I can do that. But, like, are you expecting twice a week, 3, 4, 5 times a week? Like,
4 or 5 times a week.
What are you expecting? So there's so many questions that come up under the expectation umbrella, even financially. Like, what are you expecting me to contribute to this marriage? What are you expecting? Are you taking care of these bills and now I pay for this? Or, like, just kind of knowing, what's important to you, what needs to be asked as far as expectations.
Right. No, I think that's good. That's a good lesson to learn. There's so many.
It's a lot of things to ask.
Questions to ask. And I think that's what's so key about why intentionally dating is so important.
Yeah.
Because you're not wasting time.
Right.
And you are observing when you're intentionally dating, you now know I can sit and observe. Because most of the time, if you're not, and you casually, those things that we talked about, have your observers on, you're not observing that. You're not even looking for it.
Right.
Because you're just blinded by the fact that, I'm with this sexy person and I'm good.
Yeah.
But if you're like intentionally dating and looking for somebody to be that person for you, that spouse, then you are taking the time to like look at those things and then hopefully taking the time to ask those questions.
Right.
Which I think is so.
And that's what I think, like you said, the difference between just dating and intentionally dating, because I can't imagine just asking all these questions to everybody I date.
Yeah.
Like, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going through everybody's medical records. I'm not going through everybody's mental situations or health and expectations. Like, that is exhausting. So this is literally when you think you found that person that you want to do life with.
Right.
These are the questions that we're saying we think would be beneficial to ask.
There's plenty others.
Yeah.
There's so many others, man.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't end at the ones we talked about, but I think these were important for us, definitely, that we either talked about in a way, or we look back and we're like, yo, we should have known more, and we even start talking about it.
And let's talk about this really quickly, because I want to ask, when it comes to expectations, right? So would you say that there was something that I should expect you not to give up if we got married?
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what
was I, like, not willing to give up?
Yeah, so if we asked a question, that question would be, what are you not willing to give up? Is there a guy's trip that you go on annually that now that you're married, you feel like you still want to go on that? Like, and I have to be okay with that? Like, having those conversations of, there's just certain things that I am going to do that I need you to accept.
Yeah.
Are
you asking me this question right now?
On the spot is what I'm saying.
I don't think I had anything that was like, yo, I have to do this still. Like, I'm not willing to give that up. Yeah. I didn't have like a guy's trip. Mm-hmm. We were just coming out of school, so none of us had money. So, like, you know what I'm saying? So there was really nothing. And everybody knew I was so devoted to you. So, I know, baby. I know, I was. You was my girl. You was my lady. You are my lady.
Hey, all right.
You're everything I need and more. Oh, oh, oh.
Just gotta let him have his moment sometimes.
That's right. Let me have my moment. So that wasn't a thing where I felt like there was something. What about you? Was there?
No.
Yeah.
But
I think they're like once you. I think that's because of the timing.
The timing. It was.
Where there's some where they may have got stripped and they.
Yeah.
Because
like we're saying, if we got married in like our 30s or something, we would have had time to establish a trip annually or something like that. But being that we got together so early, we didn't have that stuff established. Yeah. We were just trying to figure out how to live and survive.
And we was doing it together.
That's what I'm saying.
H&K versus the world, baby.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey. Anyway, man, we appreciate you guys tuning in to today's episode of H&K Chronicles. That's right. We just ask that you do us a favor, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you rate, review, 5 stars, download the episodes, check us out on Instagram, all the social medias. You can even check us out on our website, www.everydaywithhk.com, man. You'll find out all our information, man. If you would love to have us on anything, man, you want to collab, book us, man. We like to, what we do. We inspire healthy relationships with love and laughter, baby. So we love you guys. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Until next time, we love you. Peace.